Welcome to another edition of PodJerky. I'm your host, Tom. And on today's episode, we are joined by the host of the SJ Child Show, author for SJ Child's Books for Children, and in an autism advocate support group, Sara Bradford. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Tom.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I gave a brief rundown just right now. Give us just a little bit of a background info on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm from Utah. I'm a mother of three and married. I am the mom of three children with autism, and my husband also has autism. So I just have a really unique perspective and view, and that's why I'm an autism advocate. And I started writing children's books to just help teach children to have inclusion and kindness to others. And they're all about different types of special needs and how to support those needs. And then that led me to the podcast and sharing my messages. And my podcast motto is bringing value to families through education and resources. So if you're looking to, get some family education about lots of different subjects, you can check that out.
Nice. Okay, so you did mention that you have three children who are on the spectrum. Your husband is also on the spectrum. When did you find out? I think I did a little bit of reading on you as well, and I don't think you guys knew that your husband was on the spectrum originally, and you found out later on down the road. How did that come to be?
So it was about year 5 after my son had been diagnosed, and we were going to a neuropsych to have our son have his IQ tested. And while we were there, before we were there, rather, I had to fill out one of the forms that you do. It's called an ADOS test, which is an autism scoring sheet, basically, or pamphlet. And so I was going through this test, and it just all started occurring to me how much of it matched up with my husband. And I had the ability to read his a report from his when he was like 9 years old, and he had been diagnosed with ADHD. He has dyslexia. And so I just brought the information to him and sat him down and said, you have Asperger's. Like, this makes so much sense now. And, he thought about it a little bit and embraced it fully. And yeah, it's just makes so much sense. It made everything, the similarities between our son and him so much clearer. It's like you don't even see them until you have that perspective sometimes. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that is so much alike. And then with our daughters, it wasn't until our oldest is 21 and youngest is 9. And so with our 21-year-old, we had just spent a long time, about 13 years probably, going through counselor to counselor to counselor to therapist to therapist. Nobody ever had an answer. Nobody could ever gave her a diagnosis or anything. And, now that I've learned so much more about how autism presents in females rather than males, I see what we missed. I see the signs that could have, gotten her a little bit more support or understanding, if anything else. And so with our youngest 9 now, we now learning about kind of what female autism presents as. Now we see, yes, it is also clear in our youngest, who also has dyslexia like her dad. And so, yeah, it's just a family of shared dysmorphic conditions, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, see, like for those of you that listen to my show already, they already know that I do work with special needs kids. I work with children on the spectrum. I'm in the school board, and that's my everyday job. Back, I'm in my 40s now. So back when I was younger, there wasn't really that diagnosis of having autism. The spectrum wasn't really there. There was another word that we used for it that I'm not going to repeat on the show. Started with an R. Everybody knows what it is. But that word's no longer used. Today, we have it on the spectrum. But I think there's so many more tools out there to do diagnosis today than there were back, 25, 30 years ago, where we still didn't understand everything that was going on. Today, I think we have a much better understanding of everything that's going on with people that are on the spectrum.
Definitely. And I think it has a lot to do with a couple of things. Perspective, number one, the internet, having been able to see the wide range of numbers or people that were saying, hey, I have autism. And number two, families maybe back in further years who dismissed or maybe hid those facts or didn't, want that. It was much more of a stigma rather than it is today, which we're just, kind of celebrating. And at least I'm celebrating my family every day. And that's why I'm here to bring that message, is that none of those ideas from the past are what I, have in my home exist through every single day. We're talking about people who think on a genius plane of thinking, outside the box, completely without limits and expectations, or very literal and quite honest and loyal. So such a great unique perspective to be able to share. And they all have different challenges and different support needed in certain areas. Definitely.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about when your child were diagnosed and at what age. I don't know how it is different in the US compared to Canada. I know in Canada, usually they diagnose around the age of 4, kind of school age. That's kind of when they get the testing done. I know there is testing done in the hospitals as well. But talk to us a little bit about how that happens in the US and what the differences are.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, he was my stepdaughter that's 21 is my stepdaughter. So she wasn't biologically mine. So our son was our first biological child, and he was so quiet. He was so, everything was so simple. And we were like, this is just the perfect baby. Like this, we never had experienced anything otherwise, and it was wonderful. And I was an over enthusiastic mother who wanted educated children. And I bought a program called the Your Baby Could Read program. And I started showing it to him at a very young age, at 1 month old, in fact. And by the age of 1, by 12 months old, he was reading, and he wasn't speaking or making words or anything, but he could trace the words with his eyes. He could put his hands in the air if it said, raise your hands, things like that. So we could tell he was reading. So at about 14, 16 months, we brought the information to our pediatrician. We were there for his checkup. Oh, so exciting. He's reading. Look, exciting. And the guy just said, well, unfortunately, this is where he should be. And he should be making eye contact. He should be making vowel sounds or saying these types of vowels. He should be pointing to things and engaging in you. And those were all actions that he's not a part of. And so I want him to go get tested for autism. And of course, that one sentence spins you around on your feet, makes you rearrange all of your thoughts and expectations and, things that you had planned for your relationship with your child. And for me, I just really started to gain as much knowledge as I could, find out as many, resources and things like that. And so it was my beginning of my step for advocacy for autism all over the world, really.
Yeah, it's very hard because going into it, I never worked with any kind of special needs kids. I just chose this path as a decision I made from having my own business. I went into this, and I had no experience whatsoever. I had no idea what to expect. I'm a very patient person, and that's really key when working with special needs kids. And I went into it, and I just, I absolutely love it. I love working with these kids every day. We just started our new year. We met our student today, like the student that I'm going to be working with this year. I met him for the first time today. It was a little bit rough. Grade 9 student that started today in high school, first day high school. He went off really, really bad, flipped the desk over and attacked. But I was like, I still stayed in that patient mind, because you have to see him come into a new setting, a new school, new people that he's got to meet, and it gets overwhelming for them. And you can tell that there's anxiety there, and it was really tough, but you know what, you still got to stay with that. And a lot of people don't understand that with that, like a special needs person.
Yeah, definitely. And, with the great unique perspective we have with my husband being on the spectrum as well, the patient's level he's able to give all of our children, really, but especially our son, when he has, we were just in the car, 25, 30 minutes ago, and he got angry about, something that seemed little to us, but angered him, his sister humming a song. And he was kicking, and she's in a cast. She's in a leg cast, and we're holding, I'm driving, he's holding everyone back. But, you learn, he's 11 now. And so it's been almost a decade that I've been an advocate, and I've learned so much being a parent, obviously, and how to help my child de-escalate in those moments. How to help us all as a family, work together in the same kind of fashion so that it's more uniform for everyone when they calm down and things like that. So it's not like, you're grounded, you go to your room. Okay, you just be quiet. It's very okay, deep breaths. Everybody takes deep breaths. It's more like a wholeness, a family approach with love and compassion. No punishments. We don't do punishments in our home. That's just, and there's not boundaries. That's not what that means.
Yeah.
It just means we don't believe that that our children's minds are intentionally out for the need to be punished. And that's, right. I hope that people understand that, but
yeah. Yeah. So you are an advocate for autism. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what you do for that?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I started an advocacy support group called Autism Advocacy Support Group on Facebook. We're up to about 500 members, which is amazing. And in that group, the families are just incredible. And the amount of community service that I've been able to do is unbelievable. We have, donated our books. We've donated, I did a fundraiser not too long ago to create autism vehicle safety kits, in which there is a profile. I think I have a little bit of one right here. There's a profile that you fill out that has all of the child's information on it, or individual's information on it. And then we have these little communication boards that show different ways to communicate with somebody that might have autism, and just give the emergency responders a better way to help if that were to be the case that happened. And then we've also provided a sticker that goes onto the vehicle that ties it all together, that says first responder, there's an individual in the vehicle that has autism, please look at their individual profile to learn more about their needs. And then we've donated, like I said, I did a fundraiser, and we've donated 70 kits already to families all over the place. So I'm so happy, to be involved in that with one lady that is also involved in autism. Her and I are working with a local children's hospital to help them with their emergency department in their triage section to send up a sensory room. And emergency responder training. We're trying to, do that in our community and help people with those types of needs. But most of all, the families. When a family member, mom, dad reaches out to me and says, I really need resources. I need help, whether it's a child or an adult with autism. A part of me is probably the humanitarian of me, always takes a step back and helps that person and puts myself aside for a second to really help out, because I was there and I would have wanted, or I'm so grateful for those who took the time out to help me, to give me that information, to help me get that little extra step. And so, yeah, I always make time to do those for families.
That's very nice. That's really, really cool. I did one of those at school, kind of I started one for our kids that I kind of got this information sheet, but I was hammering home the fact that, you have to write it down yourself. So I would put your name, your phone number, mom's name, dad's name, because I said, you know what, if they ever got lost or got out of the school and went into public and, you know, they're nonverbal and they had come in contact with like somebody outside of the school, they'd be able to give that information to them on their own without having it like, you know, it's not like they're going to have their backpack running. So, you know, I created this sheet for them so that it was just in their head. And hopefully, I mean, that's worked. Hopefully these kids have not actually run away or got out or anything. But at the end of the day, the goal is to have them know that information just in case something like that does happen.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's so important. And people take that not even for granted. They just don't know. They just don't realize that that's something they should be thinking about.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. So I do have two more questions that before we get to the books. I don't know how it is in the States compared to Canada again. How do your kids get support in the school system?
So school system has been tricky. School system was wonderful from preschool to first grade. As soon as the first grade started, the problems started to come in. He started leaving the school, and then the school started to blame him as a 6-year-old nonverbal child. And so that's when I knew that they weren't going to get a second chance to lose my child in public. And so I took him out of school, and I've been homeschooling him ever since. Now, the thing about DJ is his name is that he has, like I said, he started reading at 1. And by the age of 3, we did realize that he had a photographic memory. And so I super propelled him into academics and education. And he is now 11 going on like probably 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade. So he is super, and I'm sure much further than that in some subjects. He could probably take a professor on any day in some subjects. And it's the incredible power of his brain, and the schools weren't able to match that ability with their teaching facility. And so that's okay. Like I took, the burden, if you will, on myself to become the smarter mom. And that's, that's the price that it's paid. Now with our daughter, she's, a lot younger, and she went to a charter school for a couple of years. But I had kind of hinted to them that I thought that she might have dyslexia, and I'd like her to be tested. But they refused to do that because of her kindness and her ability to communicate on such an intelligent, educated level, even though her letters were backwards written. So it just kind of is like, you got to look at the real details here, teachers, not what you think might be the case, but the real details of the situation. And so within the pandemic and everything happening, brought her home, and through the same online school system her brother's been through, we were able to just get her right in, have the same teacher available who also has 2 autistic sons. So it makes us like the perfect teacher pair. It's so wonderful. So now my daughter's getting the tutoring she needs and getting the help and support she needs right off the bat. Like I didn't even have to, I just had to write one sentence out, and the school we'd been with my son was just like, absolutely, Sarah, what do you need? Let us help you out. So, yeah.
So do they have actual like support in the classrooms with the teachers? Like right now, like I'm an education assistant. So we're actually the support for the teachers. And we do in high school right now, I'm actually in my own classroom with another CYW, which is a child youth care worker. And there's 2 of us in there with 2 other kids who can't be in other classrooms mixed with the other kids because either of violence or medical reasons or whatever it is. And then in elementary school, usually what we have is they're called ME classes. We have it in high school as well, which is mild exceptionalities. And that's the classroom that they're in. And then there's multiple EAs, education assistants in those classrooms that'll help out with just the special needs kids. Mm-hmm. Is there something like that in the US school system as well?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that there's inundated number of students with autism and with ADHD and, as you well know, undiagnosed children who, not to any offense to the teacher, but might be hard for the teacher to not, they don't have a diagnosis. They're not getting the services they need. The teacher can't give them the services unless that there's a diagnosis in place. So it makes it really difficult. And I mean, as soon as that happened with us, I turned my back on our school system, to tell you the truth. And I have not had much faith in it since. I don't know, like in the future, what that's going to look like. If my, right now, I don't even feel safe letting my daughter go back to her charter school. That's, we'll wait everything out. And then, if everything's bright and sunny at the end and schools are back in and everything, maybe we'll, look into some more options, investigate some more places that are more appropriate. Now that it's 10 years later, there are so many more schools in our area that are just autism schools or just, neurodiverse kind of classes and programs. So some options to go through.
Yeah, it seems like a different system. I mean, you're not with what we do here. I'm not with what you do there. So I mean, it's difficult to say. I only know what's going on over here. So
yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So I was listening to another show that you were on, and I heard you talk about casein, and which is an ingredient in milk. And we actually did one of the episodes that we did on autism earlier in our podcast. We're coming up on episode 100 soon.
Ooh, congratulations.
Thank you. So we actually did an episode, and by no means are we doctors or anything
Absolutely.
like that. But can you talk a little bit about the benefits of casein with your son that you found?
Absolutely. Really early on, like I said, as soon as I got the diagnosis, I dove right in. And I used to be a medical research for an attorney. And so I dove right in, did the research, understood what I was reading because I understood the medical terms of it. And somebody had led me to a website that promoted a gluten casein-free diet and that it would help the inflammation in both the neuropaths and the gut. And so in my research, I thought, okay, well, why? Like, why would that be the case? And so I did some pretty heavy research. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, not a doctor, but from what I understood was that the proteins, because casein is a protein and so is gluten, they're both proteins, were causing inflammation in my son's pathways to be able to speak. And as soon as we took the casein and the dairy out of the system, he started speaking probably within 1 or 2 weeks. And he wasn't just speaking, he doesn't speak fluently now, but he's spoke like 50 words. He said all of the words from the reading program that he had been watching for so many years, or I guess for just 3.5 years, but he was finally been, chimpanzee, monk, like banana, like all these random words. But it was amazing. And so about 6 weeks later, probably I waited until I did the gluten-free diet. And in a matter of weeks, the same, different things happened, but we got the same positive thing that he stopped stimming as much as he used to. He would spin circles and hum and not make eye contact and flap his arms and stomp his feet for hours and hours and hours. And we would have to cushion his room off. We just could put cushions all around the room because he would just spin into the walls everywhere, go all over the place. And without that gut inflammation, most of that stopped. Most of that stimming stopped. He still has stimming behaviors that is coping and, over when he gets stressed or overstimulated, things like that. But the actual existing isn't so hard for him anymore on a regular daily basis. So
yeah, I know, like we did a little bit of research on it as well. But like I said, we're not doctors. Before anybody else tries to do this, whoever's listening, please do your own research or consult your, physician. This worked for you. It might not work for somebody else.
Absolutely.
But do your research before getting into that. Just a little bit of a warning there, just so that nobody just says, hey, we're listening to PodJerky and they said this works, so we tried it out, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you talk a little bit about your books? I know we're on limited time here just because I started late because I had some computer issues today. But yeah, talk a little bit how you got into the books, and I believe you have 7 of them written for the child's books, the children's books. Yeah.
Yep, 6 about special needs, and one special one that my daughter illustrated herself and published when she was 8. She's 9 now, so yeah, really special for her to be able to do that. The book started about 8 years ago, just as a hobby. I have a physical difference called outer ear microtia. I have really little ears, like little tiny. And so my children were also born with that same heredity. And I was bullied as a kid, as a teenager, and as an adult. When somebody in the grocery store yelled, "Hey, little ears," I realized, oh, there's no hope. And I need to help society realize that's not okay. And so I wrote a book for my daughter to help her accept her differences and be proud of them, and really just kind of move from that space rather than the fear or the self-worth, self-confidence that comes from bullying. And then it just propelled into so much more because people responded to it, they loved it. And so I decided, okay, this message is working. I can do this with autism. I have a book about Down syndrome, dyslexia, and anxiety. I have 2 books about autism. One that's about DJ the bear with autism, and about his favorite time of the year, which is Christmas time, and DJ goes to meet Santa. So yeah, some really just great educational books for elementary age kids and their families, teachers. It really helps kids to support their peers with special needs, because just a little bit of knowledge transfer into understanding for kids. Certainly.
Yeah. So for those of you that want to take a look at these books, I'm just going to read them off really quickly. You have Anna the Kitten, a book about physical differences, Anna's ABC book, DJ the Bear Goes to See Santa, DJ to the Bear, a book about a bear with autism, Doug the Dyslexic Duck, Jack the Dog, a book about Down syndrome, and Wiley the Worried Worm, a book about anxiety. Did I get them all?
Yes.
Okay, good. So tell everybody where they can find those books if they're looking to get them.
Yeah, sjchilds.org. There is an online store. If you want the collection, there is a coupon code on there. So please feel free to do that. And you can also find information for the show, which is probably going to fit in the next 2 minutes or so. So yeah. The SJ Childs Show, the podcast is on all audio podcasts and also on YouTube. So we have both sections available on the website. Yeah, check it out.
Awesome. So are there any more social media channels that they can find you on? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
Everywhere. Yeah. I'm not much on Twitter, but I am on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, SJ Childs, or the SJ Childs Show. And you can find all of our links there. We're almost up to 10,000 on TikTok, so come and follow us and help us. We're having a 10,000 follower giveaway. We're giving away silver coins. So, nice. Come and join and sign up.
Definitely. So everybody go and check that out. I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. For those of you that don't know, this was our 3rd attempt at this. We just had some issues in between both of us, different times. So, but it was great to have you on, and I'd love to connect again and do this another show about this, because this was a great conversation. I always like talking about this stuff. It just something that resonates with me because I do work with the kids as well, and I always enjoy talking about it. So whenever you want to come back on or have me on the show there, then we'll do another one. And we'll get that going for sure. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. I want to say thank you again for joining us on today's show. You can find PodJerky on Instagram and Twitter at PodJerky. You can also find us on our link tree. That's linktr.ee/PodJerky. And you can find us on Bitesize. That's BYTESIZE.me/PodJerky. As always, stay safe, be kind to each other, and we will see you later.